This is Dennis Sietsma, Dennis John Sietsma Productions, December 4th, 2022. This video is about my 1994 Chevy Astro van restoration project. I call it a project because it seems to never spend any time on the road. Every time I think I got it on the road, it has something else. I've been working on a engine seeking at idle intermittent problem for years now and changed all the engine sensors, so don't suggest it. Already did all that. Vacuum pressure's normal but fluctuating. I was thinking I may have a leaking central multiport fuel injection, or spider as they call it because it looks like a spider, on a VIN-W van. Now when I say a VIN-W Generation 1 Astro van, this is a 94, I've owned it since it was new. I'm in southeastern Florida. It was 60 degrees when I woke up this morning. It's a nice day. And I was working on the van yesterday, as you see in my other video logs. But by VIN, I mean the vehicle identification number, which is usually on the door or on the windshield or on your title or registration. If it's got a VIN-W whiskey, you have central multiport fuel injection, or the spider as it's called. And I've got the upper plenum removed here. I pulled that off yesterday and took me a couple hours to get it off, using a deep well 10mm socket and a couple other tools. Wasn't difficult, just was time consuming, and there's very little room to slide that upper plenum out, but it does come out without having to open the refrigerant lines. I do plan to do more air conditioning work on this, so I'm going to have the system open and replace some more parts in the air conditioning system later. But to test the spider, also called CPI, Central Multiport Fuel Injection, the spiders like to leak at the regulator a lot, and I don't know where you can buy a new one anymore except one company, and they get like 1 star on their reliability, that one company that still makes them. Napa sells a regulator repair kit, so you don't have to replace the whole spider, and that's usually what fails. The poppets can also fail, and this 2-pole connector on the top can fail, so when in doubt, replace the electrical connector with new, which new stands for never ever worked, I'm told. Haha. But to test the spider, I've got the fuel injection. All you do is turn the key on without starting the engine, and you see mine pops right up to 60 psi. It's a little low once the fuel pump comes on. And if you have a no start situation, you want to check and hear, listen for the fuel pump, which you ought to be able to hear running, especially when it first starts, when it's dry. These vans have chronic failures of the fuel pump as well, and there's a relay up front you can check for voltage. I'll show you that in a minute. But anyway, maybe this is my problem. Maybe it is the fuel pump because I see it going down in value. Maybe that's what my seeking problem is. But I'm going to go ahead and replace the intake manifold gaskets anyway. But this may be a clue to this detective story. But I got other problems with this van. I got a failed ignition switch. I'm going to rework some of the electrical to take the load off the A-pin on the switched, and replacing the ignition switch may give me more fuel pressure too. Who knows? I'll know. I ordered the switch, but it was shipped to the wrong address, and instead of ordering another one or buying another one, I'm going to go to that address and recover it, and probably be February of 2023 before I can do any more. But the way you test the spider is you look for dripping fuel, and also watch to see if it holds pressure. Now it should hold pressure after you turn off the ignition, which I just did. And you also check the spider. You look at the spider for the central multiport fuel injection. You look for leaking, dripping gas, raw gas. And I keep trying to explain this to people. No, you don't start the engine. You don't start the engine. And of course there's always chance of explosion, fuel, or fire anytime you do it yourself work. So do this at your own risk. Anything you do it yourself is at your own risk. But I don't see any gas leaking, and I bought this last, I think in 2015 is the last time I changed the spider, and I've changed this quite a few times. I don't think you can buy a spider anymore, but you can get a rebuild kit from Napa. I think I said that once already in this video. And I have already replaced the electrical connector. Boy, having an intermittent 2-pole electrical connector is a booger, because it's buried underneath this plenum. And if you haven't got a good electrical connection, you're not going to have good, reliable engine performance. So, you know, depending on how far I get on this, I may order a new connector too. They're not expensive and they're not hard to replace. And as far as I know, the connector is reliable. But boy, I had a no-start problem that I had to chase for years before I replaced that connector. But with a test light, you come up here. There's a connector here. You take your automotive test light, see if you've got power, your good battery voltage and power here, because it goes through a fuel pump relay, and this fuel pump relay can fail. And my electrical problems, I got 4 fused links, A, B, C, and D. I've marked them. 2 of those are not used for the vehicle operation directly. One of the fused link feeds power to the excuse me, feeds power to the Kelsey Hayes 4WAL ABS system directly, and I have that de-energized until I have a chance to work on that. I'm going to pull the control board off and reflow the solder on it, and when I get time. And the other power feed goes directly to the AC relay. So you got 2 fused links out of 4, and they always fail at the bulkhead connector, so I cut them and connect them right up to the battery and let it backfeed through whatever. It seems to work fine doing it this way. And I have a quick disconnect because I want to protect my battery when the vehicle's not in use for any duration. And I don't have time to work on this. I got like this week, and then after that I won't have time to work on this project again until probably February. And I have some deteriorated protection on the wiring I want to clean up while I'm in there once I get the lower intake manifold plenum loose. Hopefully today I'll get that off. And according to what I read online, these 1990s General Motor 4.6 liter V6 engines have a history of problems with the intake manifold gaskets, so gonna replace those whether they need it or not. And they also have a history of worn distributors causing problems, so we'll look into that. But this is why I do tests, diagnostic tests, once, twice, 2, 3, 4 times over and over again to see if the results change over time, because a difficult to ferret out problem, a difficult problem can hide itself. And you do a test and you say, oh, I tested that. Well, you need to go back and do the, and I'm really into engine diagnostic tests as opposed to tearing things apart and replacing parts, but sometimes that's part of the troubleshooting process. And I've replaced the IAC valve on this, I've replaced the EGR, I've replaced the O2, I've replaced the fuel pump, I've replaced the spider. I've done everything trying to get rid of this seeking at idle problem, which is annoying when you're driving it. It's a drivability problem. You can still use the vehicle, it just annoys me. So when I'm annoyed, I do things. So I'm gonna try to, I got the upper plenum off here, and it's in the back seat. And yes, I have the factory service manuals. Everybody says, oh, where do you get this wonderful technical information? I bought it online. Not online. It was 1994 when I bought the van, new. And I bought the service manuals from General Motors Helm at that time, HELM Publishing. And you could probably find the manuals on eBay somewhere or from Helm. But they're wonderful service manuals, have a lot of information that you can't find anywhere else unless you're in the know and having your technician notes. So I hope you enjoy my video. Give me a thumbs up if you did. If you learned anything, give me a thumbs up and share it. Feel free to subscribe or share. And I'm going to get to work on this, twist some wrenches, get this lower intake manifold off and change those gaskets. And also sometimes these leak right at the upper plenum gasket, the gasket you see here, and that can be frustrating too. So frustrating. Do diagnostics, check your engine vacuum, compression checks, leak down checks, combustion gas in the coolant check, all kinds of tests you can do on an engine before you take it apart to try to pin down. Electrical tests ad nauseum.